As a Spectrum Internet customer, you get one line of unlimited mobile included for 1 year. Additional lines, just $30 each. Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Hello, I'm Robert Guadarrama. Here is your Spectrum News in 90. Mistakenly deported Maryland man Kilmar Abrego Garcia is now back in the U.S. and is facing federal criminal charges here. The charges stem from a traffic stop in 2022 alleging that he conspired to bring undocumented immigrants to the U.S. from Guatemala, El Salvador, and other countries. The indictment also states that Abrego Garcia was an MS-13 gang member. He was deported to El Salvador back in March and has denied membership in the gang. President Donald Trump and Elon Musk's social media feud calmed on day 2, with both sides putting the direct attacks on the back burner Friday. Musk's posts focusing on SpaceX's success as a government contractor. President Trump saying he won't be speaking with Musk, quote, for a while. A White House official says the president plans to get rid of the Tesla he received in March. And Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend telling jurors Friday about hours-long sex marathons she called hotel nights. The testimony mirrored that of another of Combs' ex-girlfriends. Both women testified they were made to have sexual encounters before they were fully recovered from health issues. And that's your Spectrum News in 90.
I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. This program takes you behind the headlines to focus on the future of our country and its people. With a new administration in the White House and a new Congress, we are exploring the new people, policies, and power that are shaping the nation from a local point of view. This week, the big deal was President Trump's creation of a new wide-ranging travel ban. The travelers from dozens of countries, primarily in Africa and the Middle East, will now be banned from visiting the United States starting on Monday. And the Trump administration is partially restricting travel from 7 additional countries. We will break down the new ban in just a second, but first, here's reaction from Haitian communities across the U.S.
We have to be very, very careful. We travel, where we travel, and all the 19 countries that was impacted by this new decision.
For the Haitian, I think it's devastating. It's something that is going to tear apart families and will tear apart the whole community.
Heartbroken. It is, because it is not easy to live like far away of your kids and families. We have to be strong for the community.
Joining me now with more are 2 top political analysts. Susan Arbetter is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Albany, New York. Reuben Jones is a Spectrum News political reporter based in Washington, D.C. And Reuben, how did the Trump administration make this list? How many people come to the United States from these countries?
Yeah, Errol, it's good to see you. Look, and a lot of this should not come as a surprise, given the first travel ban we saw the president put in place in his first administration. But when you look at why the president targeted these countries, he says that some of these countries had deficient screening and vetting or have historically refused to take back their own citizens. And a lot of this cites back to a Department of Homeland Security report that was put out looking at visa overstays of tourists, business visitors, and students who arrived to the country and singling out these countries with high percentages of that remained after their visas expired. So when you look at these countries, Errol, in terms of the impact and the numbers, it impacts about 126,000 visas. That's how many have been sent from these countries in the past 12 months. The majority, or I should say a significant share, are coming from Afghanistan, followed by Iran. But a good share of these, Errol, are coming from Afghanistan.
Okay, so now, Susan, President Trump says that the timing of the ban is a result of the recent attack in Boulder, Colorado, where an Egyptian-born man was arrested and charged, but Egypt is somehow not on this list of banned countries, right?
Now, Egypt is not on the list of banned countries, as you say, Errol, but as you mentioned, it is the home of the Egyptian national who was suspected in the attack in Boulder, Colorado on a group of Jews and Zionists and others who support the return of hostages still in Gaza. The suspect, Mohammed Sabri Soliman, threw Molotov cocktails allegedly into a group of peaceful protesters in what may have been a premeditated attack. The man was in the U.S. on a tourist visa, which federal officials say is now expired. This is probably embarrassing for Egypt because that country is a key mediator, along with the U.S., in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Because Soleiman's visa expired under the Biden administration's watch, it's also politically expedient for President Trump to blame the previous president for allowing this attack to take place.
Okay, so now, Ruben, what has the reaction been like on Capitol Hill to this new travel ban?
Well, we aren't seeing any significant opposition from Republicans here on the Hill, although New York Congressman Lawler did express concern and called for a reversal of the ban on Haiti specifically, saying no evidence that Haiti is a breeding ground for terrorism that threatens national security. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats have been quick to criticize this ban, calling it racist and calling it flat out cruel. They introduced legislation to reverse this ban as well.
It will rip families apart and inflict needless pain, and the Trump administration hopes it will distract you from the fact that they are pushing a monstrous Republican bill through the Congress.
So look, that legislation not likely to go anywhere in a Republican-controlled Congress. On the other side here, I will say there was one Democratic Senator, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who pointed out that this travel ban is basically just a distraction from the Republican bill before the Senate, the so-called one big beautiful bill, that a distraction from the impact that would have on Medicaid. So sort of two different approaches here from the Democrats on this.
And what are the legal experts telling us about whether or not this new version of it can withstand court scrutiny?
So back in 2017, you might remember that the courts ruled that Trump's travel ban against predominantly Muslim countries, Errol, was considered too wide in scope, and it quote, lacked clarity. This time around, the president seems to have learned from the past. One big change is how the ban is being presented. Rather than a Muslim ban, the order is being framed as a way to protect national security and national interests. And yes, many legal experts are saying that this ban, because of the lessons learned from 2017, could withstand legal scrutiny.
Okay, and now, Ruben, I've got to ask you about this week's tumultuous chapter in the relationship between President Trump and Elon Musk. The partnership appears to be over. Public accusations of financial conflicts of interest, scandalous personal conduct. What are the broader implications of this breakup for the president's MAGA movement?
Yeah, Errol, this is going to be fascinating to watch, and it was certainly all the conversation here in Washington. You saw Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sort of going viral in a moment. One of our producers here shot Melody Clofer saying that the girls are fighting, basically, is what she said. And this is all leading to the question of what are some of these Republicans who have been united behind Elon Musk in recent weeks and in recent months over the cuts he has made to the federal government? Are they going to stand behind Elon Musk as he continues to criticize and call out President Donald Trump, or do they back off some of the support that they have given Elon Musk? All of this playing out as the Senate takes up this Republican bill that the House has passed and that Elon Musk continues to criticize. Also comes, Errol, as the House has picked up this bill that would basically put into law some of the cuts that Elon Musk led in the federal government. Cuts, by the way, that some of these people who have have been eliminated from their position. Now we're getting reports that the federal government is trying to bring back some people into the government because they may have gotten rid of too many people.
Yeah, and I mean, and Susan, a lot of that chaos, the firings, the rehirings, now this bickering between Musk and Trump is not doing anything for the Republican brand. We've seen in the past, in the first Trump administration, up where you do your reporting, there really was a Democratic backlash, or I should say a backlash against Republicans that helped Democrats.
Absolutely. I think that we could possibly, depending on if this continues, see the same thing come the midterm elections. I think a lot of Democrats are actually counting on that. And none of this is good for Republicans like Mike Lawler, who Ruben mentioned earlier, who are in swing districts in upstate New York.
Okay. Thanks very much, Susan. Thank you, Ruben. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk about how President Trump has been making inroads with black voters, how that happened last year, and we're going to take a close look at whether or not it's going to last.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Bring it to the party. Bring it to the top. Bring it to the party. Never gonna stop.
Enjoy. Unwind. Connect. With Spectrum TV On Demand. From the latest hit movies you've been waiting to watch to your favorite comfort shows and more, all available instantly for you to stream. Create the all-around entertainment experience you've always wanted with Spectrum TV On Demand. Browse over 80,000 on-demand titles today.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
I would say the country isn't necessarily headed in the best direction. We are no longer together. We're so far apart from each other, and I think that's what we need to worry about, just getting together.
We're back with The Big Deal, continuing our series on the evolving landscape of American voters. This week, we're looking at black voters, who represent about 14% of eligible voters overall, with a concentration in southern states that some demographers still call the Black Belt. While President Trump made inroads with black Americans last year, the group remained overwhelmingly loyal to the Democratic Party. A breakdown of the last 3 presidential elections shows that President Trump has increased his support by 5 percentage points since 2016. Joining me now with more on the black vote is Christina Greer, a professor of political science at Fordham University and the author of Black Ethnics, Race, Immigration, and the Pursuit of the American Dream. Thanks so much for joining me.
Anytime, Errol, anytime.
So now the black vote was overwhelmingly, as it has been traditionally, about 86% for Democrats. Why is it noteworthy that President Trump made slight inroads and got Republican support up to 13%?
Well, I think, the black vote has been calcified in the Democratic Party for several decades now, but it's a very slight inroads, and I want to say that very specifically, largely because there's a party capture that a lot of black voters feel. There's a wide ideological spectrum of black voters. They're just kind of trapped into one party because by and large, Republicans have chosen to go with more white supremacist or white nationalist rhetoric in a lot of states. And that's turned off black voters, even if some of the policy positions they may agree with. So there's a personality politics that has definitely eroded black Republican partisanship. This time around, I think a lot of black voters are saying, well, if we want to get more, we need to actually be competitive in more than just one party, because they feel as though Democrats sometimes ignore them, or because they're such steadfast, big D Democratic voters, Democratic politicians say, well, I hear what you want and what you need, but I really need to focus on these other voters, these other demographics to try and get them to come over. And so there's a feeling of neglect for a lot of voters, where they're at least willing to entertain some of the rhetoric of the Republican Party. And to be very honest, Errol, the divisive rhetoric of Donald Trump, essentially saying, you don't have because the immigrants stole it from you, is attractive to some voters, black and non-black.
Well, yeah, in fact, I wanted to ask you more about that. The Navy, under the Trump administration, is considering renaming multiple naval ships that had been named after civil rights leaders and prominent Americans, including Harriet Tubman and Thurgood Marshall. They want to rename them. I'm also mindful that back in March, the president signed an executive order accusing the Smithsonian Institution of not properly reflecting American history. And he was specifically referring to the Museum of African American History. And we've certainly seen the attack on diversity and inclusion programs. That's not going to trim government waste. It's not going to lower the price of eggs or help with tariffs or anything like that. But that kind of rhetoric seems to be an essential part of Trump's politics. And I was wondering why.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen this time and time again with specifically Republican politicians in many ways, which is essentially to create a vision of America that does not include diversity, that definitely doesn't include people of color, and specifically doesn't include black people. But when I've done focus groups, what I have found with people who are at least interested in entertaining the rhetoric of Donald Trump, it's because, well, he gave me a stimulus check. He gave me money, which is a one-time deal. And granted, he didn't give you anything. It's the U.S. government that did it. And Joe Biden did it as well, but Joe Biden didn't put his name on it. And so the marketing of sort of the money piece is what was attractive to some people in 2024. I think what will be interesting, Errol, though, is because the sort of selling off the government for parts in many ways and firing so many government employees, which will drastically affect black families and black communities, defunding HBCUs in very specific ways, defunding so many programs that have assisted black communities, how they will interpret that and how Donald Trump will sort of try and wiggle out of it, in the upcoming months and years will be interesting to see, as far as will black voters essentially penalize him for the economic ways that he is hurting black communities.
Okay, so now going beyond Trump to the Republican Party as a whole, one comparison that jumps out for me is with 2008, when the Republican candidate John McCain got only 4% of the black vote. But of course, that was the year that Barack Obama ran, and that was exceptional in so many ways. If we go 4 years further back, the Republican candidate George W. Bush, won 11% of the black vote. So are we sort of seeing a reset where the parties are being a little bit more competitive, and that's, I guess, in keeping with tradition, and that tradition was just disrupted by Obama?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that Republicans are going to make inroads, like let's just say in 2028, and Donald Trump is not the nominee. He's a charismatic entertainer of a politician. And I think that he connects with voters, whether you like him or not, he does connect with voters in a particular way. I'm not sure that Republicans can go into black communities and and connect in the same ways. If we remember George H.W. Bush, he supported Planned Parenthood. He supported certain environmental issues. The Republican Party of George H.W. Bush and John McCain is all but gone. Don't forget, John McCain is the one who said, what's wrong? Everyone keeps calling Obama a Muslim, but what's wrong with being a Muslim in America? So we don't see that type of Republican anymore. They've all fallen in line with Donald Trump. I'm curious to see if they sort of come back to the senses or the center and their senses once he leaves office, or if they double down with more extremist Republican Party rhetoric, and if that's where they will stay. I'm not exactly sure, because this type of vitriol really works for Donald Trump. We haven't seen it work widespread with other Republicans outside of Donald Trump.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Greer. Great talking with you. We are not done just yet. Coming up next, we'll talk about a congestion tolling program in New York City that the Trump administration is trying to halt. Stay with The Big Deal.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms, available on the Spectrum News app.
Look at this.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together. Oh, that was funny.
It's all about connecting with seamless connectivity. And internet customers get 1 mobile line included for 1 year with Spectrum.
What are you doing in there? What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over. Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
You're watching The Big Deal. It has been 6 months since New York City launched the nation's first congestion pricing program that refers to a system where drivers are charged a fee to enter the busiest part of the city in an effort to reduce traffic and improve air quality. You can find congestion pricing in major cities all around the world, including London, Stockholm, and Singapore, but no city in the U.S. has tried the strategy until now. In New York City, drivers who enter below 60th Street in Manhattan are electronically charged $9 during peak hours and $2.25 overnight. The program has faced complaints and even lawsuits from drivers in the city, as well as commuters who drive into the city from nearby suburbs. And the Trump administration is taking the side of the drivers, demanding an end to the congestion toll altogether. But New York's Regional Transit Authority, which runs the program, along with New York's Governor Kathy Hochul, is not backing down, and the fate of the congestion pricing program could be decided in court. Joining me now with more on all of this is Samantha Liebman, the transportation reporter for Spectrum News New York 1. And Sam, traffic is down significantly, and let me just say the MTA projected the number of cars would rise as the weather warmed up, and as still we've sort of seen a lot of people who say that they like it. About how many cars is it affecting?
So it's had a reduction of about over 2 million cars monthly. So it's been a range of about 8 to 12% reduction in cars monthly since January. So that's a significant amount of cars that you're taking off the road. And officials say that the central business district is still humming. There's a lot of business. Business is up. Foot traffic is up, although you have detractors who say that they still don't like it and it is a pocketbook issue, but it is helping the pocketbook of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the MTA, the body that oversees the area's public transit and the tolling program. It's taken in just under $216 million gross from the tolls through April, with lower than expected back-end expenses, and it's on track to meet the net goal of $500 million a year, which will fund transportation projects. Meanwhile, ridership across the whole system is up 10% over last April versus this April, they said, 18% on buses and about 10% overall on the commuter rails. And one study also has been done about truck diversions and traffic diversions. There was fear that traffic would move to other parts of the city and lead to more congestion and more air pollution, like an area like the George Washington Bridge, but it found that actually traffic was down at the George Washington Bridge over last year.
Okay, so traffic is down and $500 million is being collected by the Transit Authority. The Trump administration, though, is threatening to withhold funding of all kinds for transportation if the tolling program is not halted. Where do things stand legally?
So when U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy issued a letter in February saying that he was going to withdraw the approval for the program, the MTA, which is, again, the state agency overseeing the program, they sued. And that litigation is still pending, and they haven't turned off the tolls. And in an April 21st letter, Duffy threatened all of this funding. So the MTA sought a preliminary injunction to prevent any retaliation from the feds for keeping the tolls on as the legal proceedings continue. Now, the judge granted it, and in his order, he said the plaintiffs had a likelihood of success on the merits. And remember, this judge already pretty much ruled in favor of congestion pricing in 4 other cases.
I know nobody likes to fight with the White House, but I imagine there are some other cities who wouldn't mind charging automatic tolls and maybe making some money for their transit authorities. Are other places around the country considering a similar plan?
There are a few cities. There was Seattle, there was Portland, Oregon, but really San Francisco seems to be the most serious about it. In fact, officials from the city visited New York in March, and they said they were very impressed with the results of the program. So they're a little bit concerned about the recovery of downtown, and that, of course, that was the concern of people here in New York City, the recovery from COVID. But so far, so good, and so they are considering it in San Francisco.
Okay, and then, I guess New York's a little different because a lot of the traffic they're passing through. This is a regional hub that people aren't necessarily coming to downtown, but they're passing through it to get to Philadelphia or Boston or somewhere else, right?
Yeah, but not usually the downtown. And I just want to preface the fact that, when they count all of the numbers, this is including roads that are excluded from the toll. They can't really parse out those roads from the roads that are actually tolled.
Sure.
So the reduction in traffic may actually be more than they're saying.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you very much, Samantha. And thank you for joining us for this episode of The Big Deal. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned to your local Spectrum station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the